And welcome back to Bern. Well, it's been quite an exciting day of activity, and we've crisscrossed the city learning about the political system, but also about the funding behind the science and innovation projects that South Africa and Switzerland are collaborating on. Now, you will remember that we are, of course, here as part of the South Africa Science and Innovation Study Group to Switzerland, and of course, just taking in what it is that has been done. And of course, tomorrow we go into the institutions and we'll start in Basel, and maybe you'll come along for that ride with us. But right now, as you can see behind me, we're still in the picturesque city of Bern, as I'd said. And of course, I'm joined now by one of our very own sons who finds himself here looking after South African business here in Bern. His Excellency, our ambassador to Switzerland, Mr. Sello Moloto. Thanks so much for coming through.
Thank you very much and good evening.
So how are things in Bern, and more specifically, South Africa's relationship with Switzerland?
South Africa has a very cordial relationship with Switzerland, and we cooperate in many areas and in many sectors, and the cooperation has been very good.
And of course, when we think about cooperation, when we think about being non-aligned in so many instances, South Africa and Switzerland do share that space quite often.
Actually, if you look at most of the things they say about their policy, if you remove the name and put those which South Africa says, you will think it's the same country. They say they are neutral, we say we are non-aligned. They say they promote mediation and democracy and peace and all, and that's what exactly South Africa is doing. So we've got many commonalities and many areas of cooperation.
And we are here specifically this week to focus on one of those areas of cooperation and collaboration, partnerships, if you will, between some of our tertiary institutions as South Africa and Switzerland. And how would you describe that relationship, Your Excellency?
The relationship is very good and I think beneficial to both areas. The one thing which we South Africans don't appreciate about our country is that scientifically and in the area of innovation, we're highly advanced and comparable with the most developed or high-income areas like Europe and Northern America. And we are at that level, and our production in science and knowledge is highly valued in the world. And that's why the Swiss take us very seriously in that respect.
And I was going to say, to that point, when one thinks of the collaboration, but also intellectual property rights, for example, one would hope that that would be mutually beneficial to both countries.
Yeah, it is, but one weakness with South Africa, and maybe it's our African culture, we are not very strong in patenting our knowledge and innovations. Most of the things, we are too generous in thinking that whatever you know, whatever you are able to do, you do it for the good of humanity. And with the Europeans, if I may say, they are very particular about patenting all of their knowledge system and every new thing they develop.
And especially in a time where there is a lot of innovation taking place, disruptive innovation. We've just come out of a pandemic, COVID-19, and one looks at the sort of research that is being done with the view to future pandemics and trying to stave those off. So have you heard anything exciting in those fields, biochemistry or anything else, climate issues that we are doing? Has anything specific come to you in that regard?
We hear a lot, and actually, to be honest with you, Europe is at a point where the innovation which we have always looked upon towards them, and even Northern America, they are now looking down upon South to come with innovations and new ideas on how things should go. The only drawback with us is that we are not dedicating enough resources to take all the good ideas which our people are toying around with to commercialize them and become something which can be beneficial to mankind.
And of course, living in the city, just by walking around, taking in what is happening, there's so much one would imagine that South Africa could learn. We were talking earlier and I said, there are so many things that I wish we could just transplant back home.
Look, indeed, there's a lot which South Africa can learn from Switzerland, but the truth is that they have been a normal state for 177 years, and they have been peaceful throughout. They have never been involved in any war, in any conflict since then. All of their resources have been channeled into development. With us, we are only 30 years old, and we've got a lot to do in order to catch up with the situation. And in fact, throughout the 30 years, most of the things which we're dealing with were experimental, trying this and that or that or that and see if it works. They have done that more than 150 years back. And in that way, we cannot easily be comparable with them. If you look around most of their companies here, you find that the leaders of those companies are the 10th, 20th, 40th generation. And with us, we're just studying. We're the first generation, actually. That's why sometimes, whilst we need things to be speeded up, you feel that we're punishing ourselves too much.
But if you think of something, and I spoke about this earlier, something like blockchain technology, which is also something that Switzerland and South Africa are collaborating on, UCT and the University of Zurich. And you look at how that could change things, you know, from a supply chain perspective, from a corruption perspective, where you can actually just keep an eye on what is happening, who's doing what on any particular document. Surely that's something that we can transplant very easily.
No, true. Indeed, if we were to become a bit more focused, because one of our weaknesses is that we want to resolve all of the challenges of our society at one go, and doing not even half, not even a quarter of this and this and this and that at the same time. But we were to be focused and say, these are the 5 things which we want to make an impact on, and they've been researched throughout the world to be the most impactful things on development, would be succeeding. But unfortunately, we would want to do everything, satisfy everybody, and at the end you find that there's no impact.
And what can the Swiss learn from us?
Oh, the Swiss can learn our Ubuntu, our ever smile, and being nice to everybody. The one thing which you can take out of Africa is humanity and being good people and social. We are very sociable than what you find around here.